What is up, everybody, and welcome back to episode 12 of From the Interns. Big weekend. Georgia defeated Texas 35-10. A second ago, we recorded, and I said Georgia beat Tennessee, so we hit an instant restart on this bad boy. Just dominant win. One of the best in the Kirby Smart era. Absolutely just showed off, his guts and his plan and preparation for this game was unreal. You could see it. The whole team was ready. Georgia's firing on all cylinders in November, which is the time you want to do so. It's looking good. Things are looking good.
It is looking good. Just completely, like he said, dismantled the former number 10 team in the country. There's just not much to even complain about. I mean, the offense, had a little bit of struggles early on somewhat, but that big fourth quarter with 21 points was enough to get the Dawgs ahead with a blowout win. But, I mean, Texas has a pretty good defense. They've had a good defense all year. I honestly did not think Georgia would put up that many points. I thought it was possible, but I didn't think it would happen. So, just seeing the offense, find their groove late in the game and just, find holes in the Texas defense was big. Gunnar Stockton, 5 total touchdowns. I mean, he just continues to blow everybody away with his impressive play and just what he can do on the field for the Bulldogs offensively, just completely taking it to a whole nother level. It seems like these past few weeks, I mean, he needs to be in the Heisman conversation if he's not one of the front runners, and I would be really surprised if he doesn't make it to New York at this point. It might be a little bit of a showdown with him and Haynes King in Atlanta in a few weeks to see who might make it out of those two in the trip to New York for the Heisman ceremony. But, I mean, just his play lately has been unreal, and it's just been really cool to see. From the start of the season, you can look back, and there were some, iffy moments. Georgia didn't look as good offensively. Everybody was talking about Bobo, all the negative stuff like that. But all the boo birds have been very quiet lately, and the offense led by Stockton is one of the best in the country. And like he said, just getting right at the hot time offensively is kind of what you're looking for. Going down the road with all these teams you're going to be playing the next couple weeks are going to be really good competition, but it doesn't seem like this Georgia team's scared of anybody right now, and I think that they can compete with anybody in the nation. And I think that, at the start, it seemed like Ohio State might be the best team in the nation, and they still might be. That might be true, but they beat Texas by 7 at home, and Georgia beat Texas by 25 at home. So you can take that however you want to look, and it just, again, proves that Georgia's just playing really good football at the right time.
I think Georgia's just the team right now that nobody wants to face. It seems like, like I was saying, they are firing on all the cylinders at the right time. These Kirby teams just traditionally trend up. And with it being one of those younger teams that we've talked about, they're going to continue to develop at maybe a faster rate. These teams are going to continue to stay younger as the whole NIL deal works. But like you said, I think it's time for the media to sit up and have the conversation that Gunnar Stockton is a serious Heisman contender. If you look at the numbers, between Stockton, Mendoza, Simpson, Sayin, they're not that far off, especially considering the competition Gunnar Stockton has faced. He is at 27 touchdowns, I believe, and through 10 games. Stetson Bennett, when he went to New York, had 27 touchdowns through 13 games, I believe. So 3 games less, same amount of touchdowns. Bennett gets the invite, does Gunnar. We will see. I think he is 3rd or 4th in odds right now. And like Matthew said, that Atlanta showdown is going to be big to see which of those two, if either, does end up going. But 3 interceptions on the season so far. Through 4 games against currently ranked opponents, he's over 900 yards, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception in those games. So he just continues to show up in these moments. Kirby Smart practically endorsed him on Monday for the award. He said, he doesn't get into all of that, but Stockton embodies the award. He is everything that it stands for, and he continues to do everything that it stands for against these top-ranked elite opponents. So anyone can make the argument we were talking at the beginning of the season, Georgia's just never going to have that, hometown guy that gets the hype. And I continue to believe that that is true because I think we both think that if Gunnar Stockton was a guy, from South California,
Miami
went to
or something.
Mater Dei or something like that, went to from Miami, then, if he's a flashy guy, he could be gaining a lot more hype. But he's just not, and that's not the type of guy that, Kirby Smart wants on his program, I don't think, quite frankly. So we'll see how things turn up. I don't think he's going to win the award, but I think at the very least he has earned his spot on the trip to New York.
Yeah, I think going back a little bit what you were saying about some of the stats, diving into Gunnar here, two things that stand out to me. It's really not what he does through the air. What he does through the air is great, but I think just on the ground, 8 rushing touchdowns is pretty impressive at the quarterback position. Again, it's just you think about who's another good running quarterback, and it's Haynes King, and it's just this is next week, but it's just that's going to be such a good game to see, just seeing those two battle it out on the ground and through the air. But also the 3 interceptions. You think back to last year, Carson Beck, he was just turnover after turnover, just stalling out the offense. Couldn't sustain drives just because he was throwing it to the other team. But, Gunnar Stockton's protecting the ball against these really good SEC defenses, and that's protecting the ball and not turning it over in big games is the best way to just win and go out there and execute the game plan and keep the ball in your offense's hand, control the clock. You just can't really ask for much more. He has one of the best touchdown to interception ratios that I can remember in recent memory. You have Stetson, obviously, but it's just this quarterback play that we've seen is just something that we really need to appreciate, and I think is going very under the radar across the nation, that a lot of people just don't realize the good things Gunnar Stockton's doing for whatever reason. Not that, like he talked about, not that Kirby really cares, not that Gunnar might not care, but it's just something to talk about, obviously, and it's something that needs to be brought up a little bit more. And I think it will be brought up a little bit more, when you continue to see Georgia on these primetime games. You got the Tech game on Black Friday, a possible SEC championship berth. But, yeah, it's just his play has been incredible, and there's just nothing really bad you can say about the way he's been playing. And, to think that the guy that we saw run out there against Texas in the second half of the SEC championship last year, and then the Sugar Bowl against Notre Dame, is just the difference in the way he played in those games, the second half of the Texas game and the Sugar Bowl versus where we are right now is, his player development is just incredible, and what you can say about how his coaches have grown and how he's grown and just how he's molded into this offense and how he's the guy leading the Bulldogs where they are is just it's honestly incredible to see.
I think Bobo and him have just mastered the whole connection as, coordinator quarterback. The misdirection in the backfield's been incredible. It's been working. I'm going to tuck it and run it, throw it over to Lawson Lucky last minute, score a touchdown. That play was huge. The play action to Chauncey Bones for that first down there on fourth down to convert there. Just everything that we've seen has been consistently. There were about 5 or 6, I want to say, possessions where it was just sort of stalled. But other than that, it's been bang, 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 just constant firing. I think Georgia is now 32 for 36 on scoring touchdowns when getting to the red zone, which is unheard of, I feel like. Yep. And we can go on and on about the offense. I will say one more thing. Noah Thomas, 2 touchdowns against his former rival as, former Aggie.
He's
but
stepping up big.
How about the defense? Yeah. 3 sacks, just no answer for Arch Manning. They couldn't do that. Just as an offense, they couldn't do anything. Texas has 82 rushing yards in the last 3 games against Georgia, which is another stat that is just unheard of. And you got an interception against Arch Manning, sort of just a miscommunication there. KJ Bolden's in the right spot. And the player that stood out to me, quite frankly, was just Raylan Wilson after C.J. Allen went down, and DeMello Jones, and just the physicality that he has played with. He is suplexing dudes and plays just it reminds me of Kamari Lassiter, and you love to see a sophomore DB getting that physical and just going for sort of the kill shot on these tackles. I think 10 points is something that it feels like we haven't seen something like that until these past 2 weeks, where obviously Mississippi State scores 21. A few of those are against backups, but this defense is finding its identity.
Yeah, and Texas 2 for 12 on third down. I mean, just getting off the field on third down as a defense is huge. I mean, the home crowd was into it, loud as usual. Great crowd for Georgia, but I mean, just getting those stops on third down is key. I mean, when you're stalling offenses, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and your offense is firing on all cylinders, I mean, they really don't have much chance in that scenario, especially being on the road. But really, one thing that kind of stood out to me, and you talking about the rushing yards, I mean, I think this game and just all these games that Texas is losing to Georgia needs to be an identity check because they're just not as good in the trenches. And until they fix the trenches, they're just not going to beat Georgia. It doesn't matter what skill players they have. It doesn't matter if their quarterback's last name is Manning. If you can't run the ball and establish the run game early on, you're not going to win. You're going to have a really hard time winning games. You're going to have to maybe force some turnovers, have some penalties or something go your way, but you can't rely on that. And even when you look at, their last couple losses to Ohio State, I mean, that's another team that's really good in the trenches. They're physical. They're big dudes. And Georgia and Ohio State both have pretty good skill players, but they also have a really good defensive front and offensive line, which is allowing them to take the next step and not just be a good team that can, throw a deep ball here and there. They can run the ball, they can do what they want to do offensively, and they're not just one-dimensional. So until Texas finds something in the trenches, which they're going to have to go out there and spend whatever money they've been spending, I think they need to move their money other places because it's just not working right now. I mean, they're not where they want to be, I don't think, and they need to get out of this mentality that they might have had in the Big 12 where you can just have some explosive wide receivers, a pretty good running back, and a big-time, big-name quarterback and win games. That's just not really how it works in the SEC. So until they change that, they're just going to continue to struggle against the premier teams in the SEC, and they're going to keep floating around 10-2. They might make the playoff. That's fine, but if they want to win national title, I think that's just going to have to change for their program and just the way they bring in players.
Yeah, you talked about physicality and money being two things that obviously the SEC, I feel like, is sort of known for now.
Yep.
And it's funny. I think Georgia's identity under Kirby Smart has always been, we're going to be physical no matter what. We're going to be physical. It's going to be hard to practice here. It's going to be hard to play us because of how physical we are. And with that comes players want to transfer. It's hard. You have an opportunity to get developed, maybe not start right away. Maybe you can start right away. But Kirby's just talked about recently, and all of the players have been talking about physicality. They always do under Kirby. But he specifically talked about what's that thought of a player comes in, it's too hard, I'm going to go transfer, get money somewhere else. He said we like to schedule those teams because typically that means the player there that is transferring there is not physical, which means the team is not physical, and he said we enjoy playing those teams. So you can take that however you want it. It could be a knock at so many different teams, but specifically saying that right after Texas, I think, is interesting just because they have beat Georgia out for a lot of recruits in situations that seem to be maybe influenced by money, maybe influenced by that sort of physicality aspect of things. But, I mean, we continue to see Georgia be just hot at the right time.
I think just going back a little what you're saying, I do think that was definitely was a shot at Texas, just saying, if they want to have all these flashy players. Because he said something similar, I think, after Georgia beat them in the regular season last year about we're not all flash or something. We came here hungry. I don't know the exact quote. It was something like that. But basically what he's saying is if you want to be a physical, gritty player, come to Georgia. If you want to go pose in front of your car and do all this flashy stuff, go to Texas and, say the things that I was saying is, you're just not going to be – you're not that physical player that when things get hard, you're not finger pointing. You're just going to be doing what you need to do to win, and you're hitting hard and doing all these things. So.
I think the question is, as a recruit, do you want to go somewhere and make your money in the NFL, or do you want to make your money in college and drastically impact your chances at an NFL career? And that's not the case with every team. A lot of teams can make that argument, but these lower tier programs that are offering this crazy money for a lack of, I think, return on, I guess, investment, you can say, is where you got to weigh out your your opportunity costs there. Just, am I going to go make $2 million to start right away and play somewhere in college but never make it to the NFL? Or am I going to sit for 2 years, develop, start for a year or two, get drafted in the first, second, third round, and have an NFL career? It comes down to, how does Kirby pitch that? I think exactly like what we've been talking about. But at the end of the day, I don't think there is a specifically defensive program better to place yourself at as a recruit than Georgia.
I think after Georgia's 2 national titles, it was going to be pretty hard to sustain that. So I think, some people maybe thought, those 2 years for Georgia was a little bit of a fluke. But I kind of see it as Georgia, Kirby comes in, they get up to this peak, they win the national titles. They take a little bit of a downcline, but it seems like they're starting to go back up a little bit. You're seeing these players come back in that kind of remind you of what we saw a couple years ago, where they're just big dudes. They're just physical. They just get the job done. They're dirty. I mean, they're just physical. I've said it. I've been saying it a million times, but the trenches are looking a lot better for Georgia than they've looked the past couple years. I mean, they've always been good in the trenches, but it just seems like this year, just the way that the players have been able to develop on both sides of the ball, defensive line, offensive line, has just looked really good lately. It's allowed Gunnar Stockton to be in the pocket, find guys. It's allowed the defense to hold stops because the other team, is stuck behind the chains because they can't run the ball. So it just seems like the Georgia program, not that it was ever down. I mean, Georgia's found success since the national titles, but it just seems like this team is getting back to where maybe they were a couple years ago, just in terms of just being extremely dominant on both sides of the ball.
Off memory, I would say this is one of the most improved Georgia teams during a season that we've seen since, at very least, Kirby's been here. And I think you just talked about that. Yeah. Just the growth on both sides of the ball has been so evident. And one more thing before we go to across football, just special teams. Woodring continues to be himself. He didn't really have to, do anything in this game. But, I guess we didn't even talk about onside kick.
Yeah, the onside kick, yeah.
Kirby Smart just absolutely threw a dagger in the heart of Texas fans, of Sark, of Arch Manning as Georgia kicks an onside kick early in the fourth quarter there, right after scoring a touchdown, and then they're going to go down and score another one. And then Zachariah Branch had 2 kickoff returns for combined over 60 yards. He's been just an absolute dog, continues to be Mr. Reliable for just junk receptions and as well as yards after catch. But that's it for.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, I think all this together. Well, pizza performance of the week coming, but I think that this just shows how much Kirby Smart is out coaching people he's playing. I mean, you saw the thing against Mississippi State where they're running off the punt, coming back, offense, stuff like that. You see an onside kick recovery, who no one thought was coming, and Georgia was penalized just one time in the win over Texas. I mean, it just shows that Kirby Smart is exceeding everything that you could think of. I mean, there's just nothing bad to say about the job he's done at Georgia. I mean, he's just the best coach in the nation. There's just nothing you can say about it. And he continues to play these coaches that everybody thinks is, pretty good. They do a good job, and he just completely dominates them and honestly embarrasses them in some capacity. So it's just been – there's nothing – but good things you can say about Smart and his staff and what they've been able to do this year. Just the changes they've made in whatever ways and just the way they've developed these players this year has been pretty good.
And with that being said, pizza performance of the week. Don't mind me. All right. Pizza Performance of the Week is back. We got another unique one. This one is going to be a nice, perfect, crispy, golden brown cheese pepperoni pizza that just crust is perfect. The even just the plate it's on is special. It's got, your Coke that they bring you is in one of those little red Coca-Cola cups, Perfect carbonation, everything about it. It's a 9.8 on the Dave Portnoy scale, so a very, rare type of pizza. And it's something that just stems from one of Georgia's top performances of the Kirby Smart era, absolutely dominant. Just like this pizza just absolutely dominates the kitchen.
We need a pizza sponsor.
Yeah, if anyone knows any pizza sponsors, we're open to anything, of course.
All right, fans. So biggest thing across football, move into this segment. A&M with the 31-30 win over South Carolina. Huge comeback in the second half. I mean, A&M survives.
Throwback Falcons fans.
I mean, Shane Beamer with the disappointing loss down in College Station. Elko and the Aggies, they just continue to win games, and if they beat Texas in a couple weeks, they'll be in the SEC championship, probably against Alabama, unless there's some Iron Bowl magic, which we'll get into a little bit down the road in a couple weeks. But I mean, yeah, that was a crazy game. I didn't really watch a lot of that game. I really didn't watch a lot of football in general before the Georgia game, but I mean, yeah, I think what was it, 30-3 at halftime?
Well, it was 30-3 at halftime. 2 minutes left. I think it is 16-3 maybe, but there is a Marcel Reed pick in the red zone. First play touchdown to Nick Harbor. I think next play was some turnover or pick six and South Carolina touchdown, or it was maybe pick again and then field goal. But it was, I mean, they just absolutely whooped up on A&M in the first half.
Marcel Reed might have thrown like three interceptions.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
I didn't watch a lick of the second half.
They doinked like a 23-yard field goal. I mean, they could not do a single thing right, and South Carolina was just absolutely dominating them.
And it's just an absolute collapse on all sides from the second half.
I'll say this. I think a lot of coaches are going to be checking out that first half film from that game to see whatever South Carolina was doing to throw them off. But that's just an ultimate collapse. I mean, that's just not a good look for Beamer, a guy that's already not really having that season. I'm a pretty big Shane Beamer fan. I think he's a good dude. I think he's done some good things at South Carolina. But after that, it might be hard to not have his seat be a little warm over in Columbia, but
he might have turned the seat heater on just a little bit.
Biggest surprise to me, Oklahoma with the upset win in Bryant-Denny over Alabama, 23-21. Just completely
crowd is stunned.
Just completely dismantled Alabama. The offense couldn't do anything. But I will say, past couple weeks, that Alabama offense has not really looked that good.
Shaky.
They've been very shaky. So, maybe Ty Simpson drops a little bit on the Heisman ranks, but a lot of credit to Oklahoma. I mean, as a lot of Georgia fans know, it's just not easy to beat Alabama, and it's really not easy to beat them in Bryant-Denny. So what they were able to do this past weekend was extremely impressive, and if they just take care of business their last two home games, they're going to be in the playoff, and they might even host a playoff game in Oklahoma, which would be good for Venables and just everything they've been doing.
I think that just shows how unrealistic the transitive property is in football, because Texas goes and beats Oklahoma, Georgia beats Texas, Oklahoma beats Alabama, Alabama beats Georgia. It's just that whole line of sequence. That whole sequence just shouldn't make sense.
I think it also says a lot about what Mateer has done with Oklahoma, because when injured, banged up, he just did not look good. And the moment he becomes healthy, they go beat. They've won two straight road games against Tennessee and Alabama, which is, if you thought they would lose both of those games, and they won both of them, which is unbelievable. So it looks like they're on the path to be one of the few SEC teams to be in the playoff, and then moves on. We got Notre Dame beats Pittsburgh 37-15. huge win up there. Freeman and them, they just took care of business completely. College game day was up there. I think they were in the corner of the end zone right before the game started. But yeah, just a complete dismantle of Pitt. I think their coach said something before the game like, "I don't care if they beat us by 100," which basically did. So I guess he was kind of right there. So I guess the post game press conference was just, "We don't really care this game, so just good job, guys. Go high five each other or something." I don't know, but yeah, Notre Dame looks really good. Jeremiah Love is insane. I think he's another player that's not getting talked about enough. I mean, I feel like every game you look at his stats and he gets like 175 and 3 touchdowns. So what he's been able to do and just how they've been able to rebound, I think they started off the season 0-2. So what they've been able to do offensively, with him at the helm, and I think a freshman quarterback, I don't really know his name, but they've really rebounded since those early season woes. But if you want to dive in a little bit of the Tech game.
Georgia Tech survives Boston College, Matt Ryan's alma mater himself. I mean, it's just Georgia Tech's defense is not knock on whatever what is here for Georgia in 2 weeks, but Swiss cheese. Haynes King continues to just will that team to wins. They were 16-point favorites and they win by 2, I think, on a game-winning field goal. Or at least a last possession field goal.
They were trailing late in the game.
Yeah, they were trailing. with not very much time left, which is not something you want to see. But they've got Pitt coming up this week, barely favored in that game now, and I think we all know how that could turn out.
I mean, that's for a spot in the ACC championship game, and I'll talk about it. You can keep going. I'll talk about it a little bit more later. But
I mean, and I think that sort of just shows that this. Not to talk too much about Georgia here, but it's a very good sign for Georgia. If Boston College is putting up 34 points, you've got one of the best offenses Georgia's put together, it feels like, in a few that's hard to say. Better offense than last year. I think Georgia's going to put up some points.
Yep. And then Michigan with the game-winning field goal against Northwestern in Wrigley Field to keep their college football playoff hopes alive. Crazy enough, if they beat Ohio State, I think they make it to the Big Ten championship, and if they win that game, they're in the playoffs. So a lot to play for Michigan, and they've beaten Ohio State multiple times in the last few years. Ryan Day cannot win that game, and
this may be the year.
It could be, but I don't know. We'll see. We're going to dive into that a lot next week. It seems like we got a big podcast coming up next week.
Yep.
A lot of good rivalry games, but yeah, I mean, Charlotte comes into town. Talk about it a little bit this weekend. Obviously, this is going to be a very one-sided game. We're going to see a lot of different guys getting playing time, but just senior day, I think that's the biggest thing. I know you were there. Kirby talked a little bit about, that's kind of how he opened his press conference on Monday, but just every year you're just seeing these group of seniors come through, and it's just great players. I mean, some of the greatest Georgia players we've seen ever. I mean, national champions, SEC champions, future first-round draft picks, all these different things, and it just continues to show the great things that Kirby Smart's done, recruiting, coaching these players, and just molding them into what are going to be some of the best NFL players for years to come. So,
yeah, 12:45 kick. I think it's a good one to get out there, get Gunner out, and around the 10 minutes left in the third quarter range. If you can make that happen, let's see Puglisi actually manage the offense rather than just throw him in to let him hand the ball off.
Right.
I would love to see him zip the ball around a little bit. Maybe even get to see Ryan Montgomery if things are going that smoothly. But we saw Chauncey Bowens go down against Texas, and I'm going to be honest, I thought he tore his ACL. He's limping off,
and he's
with,
been banged
with
up
help.
too. So he's
been banged up. He was limping off with help. He's sitting in the medical tent for 30 minutes, it feels like, and then goes to the locker room. And that's a scary sight to see whenever you've got a running back that looks like they're reaching for their knee and they can walk, because, you can sometimes walk on a torn ACL. But it was good to hear Kirby gave an update on him and said he's actually day-to-day. So that was shocking to hear. And then C.J. Allen went out, I want to say, in the first quarter of that Texas game also. And it was announced after an MRI on his knee that he will be week to week. They didn't say, or Kirby didn't say exactly what the injury was. But I personally thought Chauncey's was going to be way worse than CJ's based off everything we were hearing, but CJ was, according to my cousin, in crutches at halftime, and so take what you will with that. But both those guys, I think, are going to be back for at least. I think Chauncey will be back maybe this week, probably Tech, and then I'm sure CJ Allen will be good to go for the postseason. And I think there's no reason to use those guys.
Right. I mean, look, I've obviously expressed my personal opinions on the SEC championship, but this is another example of, these guys need rest. They're exhausted. It's been a long, brutal season with so many games that are just up and down. So I don't think that a couple weeks rest before a possible playoff game would be the worst thing for this team, but who knows? I think everybody wants to go to Atlanta. I do want to play in the SEC championship. That would be cool, but we'll see what happens.
All right. And also, just another precursor to that, I feel like for whatever reason, I think it's going to happen. I feel like either Alabama's going to lose the Iron Bowl or Texas is going to beat Texas A&M.
Yeah, I saw something on SEC Network or something, and Georgia was like the second best odds to make the SEC championship, which means that I guess analytics are saying that one of Texas A&M or Alabama is going to lose their season finale. Mm-hmm. So we'll just have to see what happens. But
we will. And back to unlocks of the week, we've got – I went 1-1 last week. We'll take that any day of the week as long as y'all don't tail. South Carolina plus 18.5 over A&M. For a second there, I thought they were going to win.
I think
everyone did.
Yeah.
But, no backdoor cover there. No. They held on. Mm-hmm. Kept it within 1 point. Covered there. And then I had Bama over Oklahoma. We're just shocked to see that sort of happen. And I mean, I can't really even go into that anymore. We already talked about it, but they did not cover. Oklahoma obviously won. And then this week I've got Texas minus 8.5 over Arkansas. I just, Texas bounce back game. Sark's got to put on a little bit of a showing in this SEC matchup. So why not take them to win by 9 or more? And then I've got USC plus 10.5 over Oregon. Not to knock on former dog Dan Lanning or anything, but this USC team has been extremely competitive this season, and I think 10.5 points that's a lot of points. So it's in Oregon. You never know how these things are going to go. It's a 3:30 kick. Prime time for one of these teams to probably whoop up on each other. I could totally be wrong, but those are my picks for this week.
Yeah, so last week also went 1-for-1. I feel like I go 1-1. I think I go 1-1 almost every week, so not really doing much there. But Northwestern covered, obviously. Michigan with the game winner, and then Georgia Tech snuck by, so they didn't cover 16.5. But this week, a little bit of a risky one maybe, but I think Kentucky plus 9.5 over Vanderbilt. I've said this before, but Vanderbilt they just haven't really impressed me all that much this year. I think some of their wins just haven't really been that great. I know they're kind of America's team, but I think Stoops, Kentucky's actually been playing pretty good football if you didn't know. I think they've won 3 in a row, smoked Florida. They looked good against Texas. They lost almost an overtime game. I mean, they've been playing better. I think they're 1 win away from a bowl game even after starting out pretty rough. So a good rebound for them. And I think, Vandy might win the game, keep their college football playoff hopes alive. But I think Kentucky plus 9.5 is a good line. And then I think, personally, this is the game of the week, Tech and Pittsburgh. I mean, you're playing for a conference title game. It's going to be a night game. And Bobby Dodd, I think this is one of the biggest games that Tech's had in an extremely long time. Not counting, the Georgia game because that's always a big game for them. So I think Tech minus 2.5. I think Brent Key and Haynes King do what they need to do. They take care of business against a Pittsburgh team that honestly just did not impress me at all against Notre Dame, which is one of the better teams they've played. I think Notre Dame is probably better than Georgia Tech, but I think Georgia Tech just being at home and a night game, and this is one of their better games of the year, and I think that they do what they need to do and what's probably going to be a shootout of a game under the lights of Bobby Dodd, but they get the win and they clinch their spot in the ACC championship game and would put them 1-1 away from their first ever college football playoff bid. So
yeah, final score of 45-42 coming live from Atlanta this weekend.
It's going to be no defense, so we'll see.
That's about going to do it for episode 12 from the Interns. We appreciate you watching. Once again, we are doing an Onward Reserve 3 polo giveaway at 500 subscribers, so make sure to subscribe and comment your Instagram to enter there. Go ahead and drop score predictions for Charlotte. I have no clue how that one's going to go, honestly. 45-point spread. It's either going to be 42-7 or 52-7.
I could see like 30-10.
Or, maybe you've got a nice little 42-6 in there.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's going to be something like that. We appreciate y'all watching.
Real quick, I did see you looking. There is no Lane Kiffin updates, even though he was supposed to be hired every day the last week. So he's still at Ole
I had to
Miss.
do a little quick search just to see if we could get a live
still at Ole Miss.
reaction. Apparently, he's going to be on the McAfee show here soon. So, big news, I'm sure,
Why
coming
is every
there.
big announcement on the McAfee show?
I don't know.
Why does that happen?
He's still not going to Florida. We'll catch you later.
Yep.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.